Let's get
They
you.
were talking about not allowing that.
No, you can't.
I mean, a board member.
Oh, right. All right, it is Monday, July 15th, 2024. It is 6:01 PM. We do have a quorum present, so we'll call this meeting to order. And Janie's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Janie. And Leo is going to read our board mission statement.
Through high expectation and equitable opportunity, TMISD will focus on the whole child by providing a safe environment and high-quality curriculum with diverse and enriching experiences.
Thank you, Leo. Do we have public comment? All right. We'll be starting off with our budget workshop.
Got your feed out in front of you. This isn't going to take very long. This is just the first wave of expenditures. And really what this is just a big chunk of positions, and I've just got some detail on there. You can see what we have done on reducing some of the positions over the last 2 fiscal years. The end of 22-23, what we reduced during last year, and then what we're proposing to start this year with. Now, the first page, we did revenues last time, so there's no changes on the revenues. And we're not looking at the program, the school and campus budgets yet. That's page 204. So if you jump to page 304 of the handout, that's where we're talking about department expenditures. So I've got to add $338,231 to the insurance. That's to cover the 6 months of what I know is increased, because we renew our insurance, our property insurance on March the 1st. So 6 months of that expense I know is increased for next year because it went up. And then I'm budgeting 13% increase for next year. And so that's what I'm adding to the insurance column. Debt service, we still have 2 maintenance tax notes that we pay for out of the general fund. And those total expenditures, those debt payments are just going to go up $728. That's a fixed cost. That's already done. Security services, I'm reducing that $160,000 because we're getting a security grant, and we've already applied for that security grant money to go towards the police officers. So we're reducing that for at least 1 year to cover the grant that we're going to get to cover some of those expenses. And then last, but when we did our revenue analysis last time, there was a little, based upon the estimated numbers, and they're all estimates, subject to change, recapture was going to go down a little bit, about $70,000. So then when you get to the main expenditure is the positions. And so if you look there at the top, with the reductions that we've done from last year's base budget. And so remember, the first column is the base budget. So the first column is basically what last year's adopted budget was to begin with. But we went through a lot of changes last year, but I always go back to the base budget and do our changes from there. So one thing that you will see, the changes with all the positions that we have reduced, there's a little bit of a combination in there because based upon the base budget, because remember, I don't know if you remember the timing last year. At this time when school had started, we were still working on the budget, and we knew we were in a deficit, and we knew we needed to make some reductions. So there were some reductions that happened before we had to adopt the budget. So that was already in the base budget. Even though we still had a deficit, there were still some reductions that were already there. So then as the year went, we had some more. But this is the reduction of the approximately 35 positions in the general fund. It's reducing, and then when you add the workers' comp and the TRS part of it, that results in a reduction of about $1.1 million, about $1.2 million in salaries. So, and just to go over the positions, if you look on the next page after the page 404, the one that's got an A at the bottom. That's just kind of a summary of the total positions. And the changes here don't necessarily reflect back to last year's base budget. They kind of just reflect to where we ended and what we've done. So you just kind of see some summaries. The top part is the general fund. We're down to about 496 general fund positions, and we've got about 16 federal positions. And there's still a few tweaks that are happening in the last couple of weeks. We've done some rearranging and some transfers and some other things. And I do think the numbers are going to go down maybe just a little bit more. That just kind of gives you an idea of where we stand. If you look at that last column, we've got certified staff, a little over 300, auxiliary staff, including maintenance and transportation, a little under 200, and then, like I said, we've got about 16 federal positions. But just to kind of show you where we've been and where we came from, if you go to the next page, the one that says B1, that's kind of a summary, and the positions are broken down by campus, and you can see that's where we ended the 22-23 year. That's the positions we were funding at the end of the 22-23 year. 531 general fund positions, almost 28 federal positions. But that was also when we had ESSER funds. We were paying positions out of ESSER. That's why we had more federal funds before. So I guess I'm trying to show like that's where we started our base budget for this fiscal year that's getting ready to end, 23-24. So then if you look at B2, that's where we are right now, and those are the budget numbers that are reflected in the summary where we reduced those positions. So you can see we're down to 496. And if you look at B3, that shows you the change, where if you go to at the end of the 22-23 year, and when we started developing the 23-24 budget, we've reduced 35 general fund positions. And you can see the one admin position, 24 teaching pay scale positions, and 10 paraprofessional and clerical positions. And then you can see we've reduced about 12 federal positions as well. So B3 just shows the change. In the last, it's actually 2 fiscal years, but it's really only like 14 months. It's the end of the 22-23 year. Everything we did last year to reduce positions, to cut back, to savings, and then to what we've done to get ready for this new school year. So that shows you the grand total and the change.
So
Now,
B3 is what we're starting with.
B3 just shows you the 2-year change. If you look at B2 shows you what we're starting with.
Okay.
B2 is the beginning 24-25 staffing budget, and this number is going to tweak before we finalize the budget in August. These numbers are going to change ever so slightly because, like I said, in the last couple of weeks, we've had a few more developments where we've reassigned people and been able to do some things. Like I know we've been able to turn a certified position at the high school is now a para position, so we're going to have some savings there because we're going to be able to do the same thing with a paraprofessional instead of a certified teacher. So that's going to have a few more savings. But if you go back to page 4 of 4, and remember, I'm going to start, once the campuses get school started, I'm going to start meeting with the departments and the campuses to start going over their budgets and what we can do. But if you look at page 4 of 4, look at that bottom number. Remember, we went over revenues last time, so this number is going to go down. Right now, our deficit is $3.6 million, but this number is going to go down because once I redo the revenues are going to go up a little bit because I believe our actual final numbers from this year, we finally got those finalized, and so I believe that's going to go up a little bit, and then we're going to project the same attendance and the same enrollment for next year. So the revenue hopefully will go a little bit in the better direction. We're not talking about big dollar amounts. We're just saying the revenue is going to get more fine-tuned as we go through these next couple of weeks, and I get the certified values in a couple of weeks.
Philip, just real quick, I know
Yes.
we didn't have anything on paper, but I think we had talked about somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5 million
Right.
deficit next year, right? So is that still kind of,
You mean what this year's going to end up?
no,
Or the
next
deficit
year.
for next year?
Somewhere in
Well,
that neighborhood.
we're gonna work on whittling this number down. But I will tell you this number is I've got the current positions fully funded, like as if we're gonna have every position fully funded 100% of the time. I know that's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna factor in some salary savings, because we're always gonna have some vacancy savings. I haven't done that yet. And we haven't sat down with the departments, and we haven't finalized our federal funding of what positions are we gonna fund out of federal and what expenses are we gonna pay for out of federal, so we can know, if there's any other areas of savings that we can adjust in the general fund.
So you're saying that you're going to assume that personnel is going to be static based on the beginning of the year figures?
We will not have, I don't anticipate as much salary savings this year, because we knew last year we were gonna start working on reducing positions and streamlining and getting, we always have salary savings, because we always have people that, once they exhaust their leave, we're gonna start docking them. And some of them, we will have subs costs to cover that, but we will have salary savings, because in the middle of the year, a para might leave, and it might take us a few weeks or a month or two before we fill the position. So we always have a little bit of salary savings, and I haven't factored that in yet. So that, we'll decide on that before we adopt the budget in August. I'll be calculating, what a good number, hopefully a more realistic number of what we anticipate the salary savings. It won't be as much as I was anticipating last year, because I knew we were gonna start streamlining and reducing positions. But we're down to, I think our staffing formulas and what we're doing, we're getting lean and mean and doing more with less. So don't look at, we're still in the preliminary stages. This is really what this is this first round of expenditures is just what I call the fixed cost. Insurance, debt payments, the current staffing right now, which will be tweaked a little bit more before we adopt the budget. Now, what I want to talk about, and then when we start meeting with the departments and the campuses, we're going to do across the board, reductions. Like, everybody's going to have to pitch in. We can't just say we're going to do everything we can to not hurt a program. We're going to provide the services. We're going to provide, meet the needs of our goals and our programs. But we're going to have to say everybody's got to pitch in and help try to do more with less and reduce. And when you start talking about what we can reduce, like if you look at page 2 of 2 on the general fund budget summary, that's the campus's per capita allotment at the top, and then the special programs and including athletics. That's only $2.1 million. So even a 10% cut is only gonna save us $200,000.
Philip, let me ask you a question. You may not be able to answer this, but would you say that we're overstaffed?
I would say that we were generously staffed before, and we're getting back to where I think we're realistically staffed. Some of our student pupil ratios are going to have to go up, but I would say before we were generously staffed, and now I think we're more efficiently staffed. Yes, ideally, you want your ratios to be as low as possible, but in the state that we're in, it's not sustainable. It's not cost effective for us to. We're going to have to do whatever we can to mitigate the higher pupil student ratios. But I'll say we were generously staffed, and I said now we are more realistically staffed, based upon we're applying staffing formulas. We're applying. We've got some rules that say, okay, we can handle it to this, but we got to get to this, like. We have to get this many more kids to justify having another teacher, or we've got to do this more kids to have another para to do that thing.
Let me ask you another question. We rely on ADA funding.
Yes.
We rely on that. Do you have a projection? Do we have a projection of an increase in ADA, as in pre-registration numbers, transfer numbers?
We don't have that now, but I will tell you, like, the next meeting, I'll tweak the revenues, and so we'll have some of those numbers. We're really anxious to see what we call our warm body count on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. I am, Mr. Van Matry is optimistic that number will be higher than the first day warm body counts last year. So we'll know this week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We'll know.
We're gonna stay conservative on that and
Well,
stay with what we
well,
were.
what I'm gonna budget for next year is what we actually did last year. So hopefully we can only go up. But I am anticipating that we did start to see this. We did this during COVID. This year we did a little bit. That increase is not, it's not a lot, but you can see it. The curve's going back up. We went from 91% to almost 93% attendance. So if we can maintain that, or anything we can do to increase that. And I will say we've got some grade levels that we're really looking at, because we've seen some numbers in certain grade levels. We'll talk about that next board meeting when we talk about revenues again, we tweak the revenues again. But we're seeing some grade levels that, like, wow, hey, we had some more kids show up. And we're not talking about transfers, we're talking about, hey, we've got some people that moved here and we've got new residents. So we're gonna constantly have to be looking at that.
One more question. I wanted
Yes,
to,
sir.
On comment you just made, something about you're using, different methods to calculate, I guess, where your optimum salaries and whatnot should be.
Right.
I know you've been here a few years. Why wouldn't we have employed this, for a while? I mean, I'm guessing we're getting this information from TEA as to what the best makeup should be, or.
Yes, we
About
have.
the staffing
We have,
ratios?
TASB has staffing ratios that, I might be speaking for HR, but I mean, we've,
Yeah.
and basically you take your counts and you say, well, especially when you get to the elementaries, it's like, okay, what would it take? We've got this many kids. If we wanted 20 kids in every classroom, you just divide and say, well, that's gonna give us teachers. But obviously TA says, you're not supposed to have more than 23. You have to ask for, is it 23?
At 23, you have to ask for a
At
class
23,
waiver.
22 is the K through 5 ratio, and then you have to ask for a waiver. But I can tell you, a lot of districts just, hey, we're gonna ask for waivers, we are at 23 and 24, and we're just gonna ask for waivers. Because TA, I know there was so many people asking waivers, they kind of changed the way you did it. I mean, because it's like, everybody's asking for waivers. And, but, yes, there are, I mean, they've said the lower the ratio, the better. But TA has pretty much said, well, you gotta ask permission, or you gotta let us know if you've got more than 22-1 in a K through 5, or no, K through 4. It's a slightly higher ratio for 5th grade. But then when you get into secondary, then it really varies, because it's the master schedule and you've got periods, and you've got classes that, band can have 100 kids. But then you look at we want to keep our core class, our tested core subjects, we want to try to keep them at a certain level. And then our non-tested electives, those can go higher. Like we can have 30 kids in I'm going to be speaking, Gabe's not even here, but I can say we can have 30 kids in a psychology class, because it's an elective and it's not a core subject. So we decide on, when we're doing the master schedule, when the campuses do their master schedule, those can be bigger, and obviously the extracurricular can be bigger too. But there are. I think there's different organizations that do have standard staffing ratios and things. You just have to decide what can we afford, and what can we afford to staff, and what can we not.
Okay, so I guess in the past, we saw, the class of the size was more important than the budget effect.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think also in the past, our generated revenues were not, we didn't have that discrepancy between our revenues and what we were actually spending.
Right.
What's getting us now is just the, I'm gonna call it the COVID effect, that reduction, and then some changes in the state formula and the way our state funding worked, the way we were being held harmless with that transition allotment grant. It's just, we're not generating enough revenue to sustain what we were doing before.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
In the past 2 years, we went into, I know it's gotta be stressful on you, because for the past 2 years, you've come and said, we were at 2.2 million deficit, went up to 2.7. A couple weeks ago, it went up to 3.3. Now we're at
With the
3.6.
shocks,
So, I mean, it's gonna have to take some drastic measures to get going the other way. So
But,
when Leo asked if we're gonna be at 2.5, I don't see us being anywhere near that because you're saving a couple $100,000 here and there. And so, I mean, I just wanna see some true numbers. I guess that's
Well,
my.
that's what we're gonna do in the next 4.
Because we're looking
6
at
weeks.
4 weeks before we have to adopt our,
We've
our
got about
budget.
6 weeks, yeah.
or 6 weeks.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a
and that's
lot of
all I'm-
tweaking to do.
That's all I'm gonna be doing in the next 6 weeks. And then if you look on page 3 or 4 with the departments, the problem is, most of those costs are fixed. It's $9.1 million, but that $1 million of recapture, that's a fixed number. The numbers at the top, the insurance and the utilities, those are fixed numbers. Those are pretty spot on. We're pretty good with the utilities. We've been, I think we've got really efficient facilities, and we're getting we have a really good extended electricity contract. So we're paying we've got a really good rate on our electricity. So we've been able to maintain that. It's only when you start, and then the debt service number, that's a fixed number. That's our debt payments. That's what we owe. We can't reduce that number 10% or any percent. So when you take out the fixed costs, which is that $1 million of recapture at the bottom, and then we're at $3 million, almost $4 million at the top between debt service and insurance and utilities. When you take that number out, that drops that $9 million down to $5 million. Well, if we cut 10%, that's only another $500,000. So if you look at the campuses, we're looking at if we can see if we can cut hopefully another maybe. That's just the ballpark. But we're gonna start having those intense meetings with the campuses. We're really gonna have to go through the budget and say, okay, what are your goals? What programs do you need to meet? What do we gotta do? And we'll have to start making some decisions on what we can do with the budgets.
Well, and they cut their budgets last year too, right?
Yes, we did lower.
So now we're gonna try to cut budgets again and lower them even more. And I think most people are aware the Board of Trustees are gonna try to dwindle down their budget some too, to play a part in helping with the budget. But I do know that we can only dwindle so far without affecting all of the organizations, everything that we provide for our kids, because that's what makes TM special, is these kids, every kid having something they can participate in, not having just specific things for kids to participate in. We pretty much got something for every kid, so we don't want it to get down to that level. We want our kids to still have everything to participate in, because that's what brings them to school,
So I want you to look at that number on 404 and like, I'm going to the highest, or I'm going to the lowest of lows here, and we're gonna build it back up. Realistically, can I get to 2.2? You're right. I'm not gonna promise that, but we're gonna see what we can do. But remember, we've got 6 more weeks. I've got more data for revenue projections. Hopefully that'll help a little bit. And then once we start looking at some things that we can try to reduce this year in the departments and the campuses. And then the staffing, I think there'll be a little bit more reduction in some positions, because like I said, in the last couple of weeks, we've had some moving around. So I think there'll be some. And then I can anticipate that we're not gonna fill these 6 paras that resigned last week. They're not gonna get filled first day of school. We're gonna fill them as soon as we can, because if they're special ed or if they're positions that we need them to help to serve the students. Yes, they'll have subs, but that's what I have the sub budget for. And the sub budget, even though it looks like we're gonna be pretty close to the sub budget, so I'm hopefully anticipating that next year, if our employee attendance can maybe improve a little bit, our sub budget will go down a little bit. But just remember, we still got some revenue tweaking to do, which I think will get us going a little bit more in the right direction. I've still got some finalizing some positions once we get school started, and then we'll look at, and then I'll also look at figuring out a number for estimated salary savings. Won't be as much as last year, and we'll do everything we can to get that number as low as possible. Or I'm gonna say as low as possible, and as realistically as possible, because it's
In August.
in August, yes.
Philip, I have a question for you. I'm looking at your budget for, the budget for substitutes. Is that a pretty conservative amount? Are you projecting that
Well,
number will?
I haven't tweaked it yet, but when we get to the financial statements, you can kind of see where we are, how much of the budget we spent for this year. Now, remember, I've got to pay for 6 weeks of subs. This first 6 weeks of subs this year comes out of the budget that's in, not this new budget. I've still got 6 more weeks of subs to pay for. So, but I think this number turned out to be a good number for this year. And so I'll look and see what these first 6 weeks look like this year. And if it looks like it's better than last year, then, I can maybe anticipate that hopefully maybe our sub costs will go down a little bit, because it looks like the further we get away from the big COVID years, attendance will be better for employees as well. We won't have as many people out for different things, although COVID keeps making little ripple effects. And we can look at it when we get to the financials. We can look at like what the subs look like for this last year, because we can see if that's a good number, or if I can maybe start shaving a little bit of that off. But my goal is, obviously, I would love to adopt a balanced budget, but that's not realistic.
No, but we do need to be realistic of passing one that is close to being realistic.
Right. So I this number's kind of daunting, but we're not done. It's not, I can tell you, it's not gonna be $3.6 million. It's gonna be a lesser negative number than that. And that's what I'm gonna carve up for y'all. And we'll be talking about this a lot more over the next 6 weeks before we adopt.
We'll be talking to the cabinet.
Excuse me, Philip, can I interject for a minute?
Yes, sir.
First off, it's good to see you guys. I wish I was with you. What I believe you're seeing in having conversations with business, finance, and HR is a complete paradigm shift of what we've done before. And what we've done before is we've projected what we felt was a fair degree of optimism in our revenue projections with respect to enrollment, refined ADA, and we haven't met those. And subsequently, at the end of the year, that was illustrated with the deficit. What you've been receiving, I think this is our third budget workshop, and there'll be more, is a draconian, bare bones, worst case scenario projections of just about everything. And with the current political climate in Austin, that's what I think we need to do. What we've done, we've cut 45 positions, 35 from the general fund, 10 from federal, and we really haven't touched our programs or the integrity of our teaching and learning in the classroom. And that's a tribute to the people in the room with you and working in our campuses. I'm really optimistic, which isn't going to show in the budget, but I think our attendance is going to continue to climb, as well as our enrollment, and we're going to see that. Mr. Gonzalez had made us ask a question earlier regarding, I think, staffing or compensation. If you'll go back to when I entered the district in June of 22, school was getting ready to start for the 22-23 school year. So really there was nothing done other than do what we normally did. We gave a nice raise and we built some facilities, which I think is showing up with increased enrollment at the high school. That's an investment. Doesn't look like it's paying off right now, but I'm still bullish on that. And I think it will pay off. And then when Ms. Riggs came on for the 23-24 school year, we put together a really comprehensive compensation plan that provides guidelines for how we pay people and how we're going to staff our classrooms. And those are the strategic plan initiatives that will get us to where we need to be, but it's not going to happen overnight. So that's just what I wanted to interject.
So, work in progress, slow but steady. The number will be better than that. And I look forward to the next budget workshop where I can look at our revenues again and start looking at some of our other expenditures where we think we can hopefully temporarily reduce to realistic and the best it can be and be realistic. It's a tough combination.
At the campus meetings, you have to ask them, what do you absolutely need? And what do you want? There's a difference.
But we're also looking for everybody's got to contribute a little bit to across the board. Any other questions?
I think it's important to note that we've got to do what we've got to do right now, but we're eventually going to be able to come back up this way once we even back out again. So that's what we can hope for. Do what we got to do right now.
And so when we meet again next year, next budget workshop or next budget thing, we'll see. I'll show you in detail what we change and what we've updated.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Thank you, Philip.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Right. That finishes our budget workshop. We'll be moving on to discussion/action item number 1, discuss and consider student athletic insurance renewal.
Yes, Madam President, Board of Trustees, this is just the annual renewal. We provide the athletic insurance for, it covers all our students in a UIL activity. It also includes like ROTC, pretty much any school-sponsored event at the secondary level, 7th through 12th grade. We're in the middle of a 2-year price guarantee, and this 12-month cycle renews August the 1st. And so we're just asking to renew it. It's at the exact same price as it was the year before because we're in the middle of a 2-year rate guarantee.
Anybody have any?
Who's the insurance, is it Carlisle also?
No, this is a company out of San Antonio. They're called the Brokerage Store, and they specialize in the student athletic and accident
Yeah,
insurance.
it's right there on that.
And they also provide. They also give us the documents that we distribute to the campuses. They also offer it, but it's also 100%. It's not school funded. It's the parents have to, but it's really affordable accident insurance that you can get for your school age kids, and it'll cover anything that happens to the kids. It's a pretty good deal. If you've got little kids, they get bumps and bruises and things, and so we just offer that to the campuses. So that's not district funded. That's the parents have to pay for it, but it's
Do a lot of parents take part of that, do you know?
You know, I have to get. You know, I can't remember. I don't remember the last time they told me the percentages. It's not a lot.
A lot of
But,
parents?
you know, it's not a lot, but, you know, kids break their arms on the playground and we're not responsible. It's not us.
It is good. I had a kid that got hurt playing tennis. And I had.
It picks up your
Yes.
secondary,
Yes.
so it is good insurance.
And we've been.
A better job of getting it out to the parents.
Yes.
Yeah, the athletic office, the trainers normally give you the forms. But yeah,
Yeah, but you give it to the kids.
well, we have Parent Square, so maybe this is something that needs to go on Parent Square.
Okay, yeah, Chrissy, can you help us remember that? to
That would
see
be a
about
great place for it to go, so
when the
everybody
brokerage
has
stores,
access.
sends me the stuff, we'll make sure that it's blasted out, that everybody
On our
knows.
Facebook pages, we got,
Yeah.
ISD, high school, middle school.
But one thing, our trainers and our coaching staff, they do a great job with helping if we got anybody injured during doing a athletic or UIL or school-sponsored event at the secondary level.
The more information you get out, that's it.
Yeah, that's right.
Any more questions? All right, do I have a motion? Well, do I have a recommendation
Recommendation.
first?
It is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the annual renewal of the student/athletic accident insurance plan coverage as presented effective August 1st, 2024.
Ben makes that motion. And I have a motion and a second made for the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the annual renewal of student/athletic accident insurance plan coverage as presented effective August 1st, 2024. All those in favor? None opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to number 2, report 2024-2025 Student Code of Conduct.
Madam President, members of the board, this is the start of a series of annual renewals I'll be asking for, beginning with the 24-25 Student Code of Conduct. Because we were in a non-legislative year, no changes or updates were recommended either from the state or the district planning committee. So what we have brought forward is a continuation of the 23-24 code to be applied for 24-25 for your approval.
So there's no changes, it's the same one
No
from last year?
changes, which is great. So if you have any questions, if not, then what you'll see is the same as what we've had in the prior school year.
I have a question. It's not a student code of conduct. Do we happen to have a parent code of conduct?
No, sir, we do not, but if you're recommending that we
I
get
am
one,
recommending-
I will put it on the list.
I would
was gonna be
recommend that
the-
we put that on the agenda.
Yeah. I was gonna say the exact same thing. when
Will you
first-
write that down, Chrissy, for next agenda? Just go ahead and add it as an agenda item, please. At the pleasure of the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I think that
And
it's
do
probably
you-
time for that.
Well, I've seen numerous other school districts that employ, a code of conduct for parents. I think we're well beyond a time frame to do that. I'm not inventing it, but I've seen some others, and I'd sure like to pass it around and see if we can get something.
We'll have to put
Accomplished.
that on the next agenda so
Yeah.
that we can actually discuss it. So we'll get that done. All right, if there's no further questions or discussion, do we have a recommendation?
It is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 Code of Conduct, Student Code of Conduct as presented.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion made by Paul. I have a second by Leo. Motion made by Paul and second by Leo. The administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 Student Code of Conduct as presented. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to number 3, discuss and consider approval of district professional development plan.
Madam President, members of the board, this is the second of another annual renewal for approval that is being brought to your attention. The district PD plan has had a couple tweaks made from the prior year. Because our academic calendar has changed and our PLC and our Wednesday time structure has changed, we are currently going to be meeting in August with a new group from the DIC committee to explore the various ways of trying to accomplish some of our PD objectives this year relative to how we've set up our academic calendar and just what our instructional day looks like across the district. And so that's going to be a point of focus and a continuation of several conversations throughout the year in order to best understand how to maximize funding, how to maximize our calendar, and of course, our instructional day. And with new leadership on board, we feel that this is a great year to reestablish our PD protocol for now moving forward. And so what you have in front of you is kind of the foundation we're wanting to lay, and we'll continue to add the details and the specifics now with leadership and once we kind of start the new school year. And so in front of you is approval for the 24-25 Code of Professional Development Plan. And then, of course, when we think of PD, we think of like compliance requirements. Everybody that is a returning staff member has satisfied their 2024 EduHero compliance requirement. Because we have a few zero new teachers, we have what, two?
Two.
They will be responsible for completing their compliance trainings this year. but that will be good for everybody for the 24 year. And what we'll do is going into 25, we will kind of go year by year for compliance. So rather than trying to do it within a school year, we will do it within a calendar year, which will better align to how we are set up for year-round school.
And that's better work-life balance.
Yes, exactly. That's the biggest change we were made in order to keep us in compliance, but also maximize time and everyone's schedules at the same time.
And that's just all of this just trickles down to the classroom to our students when professional development is so important.
Very comprehensive list. I liked it.
Yes.
Very comprehensive and includes everything. 0 year, 1 year, new teachers, everything. It's very
Everyone's got a need.
good program.
And the students benefit.
Yes.
Awesome job. Any other discussion, comments, questions? All right, do we have a recommendation?
It is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 District Professional Development Plan as presented.
I'll make that motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion made and a second by Leo. It is of the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees to approve the 2024-2025 District Professional Development Plan as presented. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to number 4, discuss and consider approval of attendance waiver.
As mentioned at last board meeting, we were currently reviewing our year-over-year attendance for 23-24, and we were able to identify a specific date in August, which was the 22nd of that month, where we were delayed start due to, I believe, a tropical storm disturbance in the sea. And so even despite the late arrival for staff and students, we had a significant decrease in our ADA for that day. And so the rule states that if we are interested in applying for a waiver, we can, as long as our ADA is at least 10 percentage points or below our averaged ADA for that time during the school year. And so the reports that are contained in the packet, you'll note that for each of the 6 weeks, we were well above the 90%. And on August 22nd, I believe we were at 67%. And so well below the 10%. So this is pretty much just routine protocol requesting y'all's approval, because then what we'll do is attach the approval signature to the actual waiver form that we will submit through Teal. That will go directly to TA, and we will take care of that this week, of course, upon y'all's approval. Are there any questions about the waiver?
Yeah, so does that basically just eliminate that day from the calculation?
Just knocks it off the books.
And you only get 1 day?
There are more ways to get more additional days. We were only able to identify the 1 day, which is why we're only bringing the one to you. It's actually kind of tricky to qualify for the waiver because in theory, the state kind of asks you to make up for those minutes, make up for that time, whether it's built into your schedule or you just have a makeup day. This was kind of nice because it did fall into the eligibility category for the waiver, so that is why we are here tonight.
Okay.
I'm glad that y'all applied for that. That's good.
Every bit helps.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Do we have a recommendation?
It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the low attendance day waiver for August 22nd, 2023 as presented.
Do I have a motion? Ben makes that motion. Do I have a second? Motion made by Ben and a second by Janie. I'm sorry. The administration's recommendation that the board approve the low attendance day waiver for August 22nd, 2023 as presented. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to number 5, discuss and consider optional flexible school day program application renewal.
And so my final item, it may seem like we were just here a few minutes ago discussing the initial launch of OFSDP at both the high school and ACC. We started that at the beginning of the spring semester in January. If you can believe it, we're already into July with 2 days prior to the first day of school for the 24-25 year. And so we are bringing this tonight in order to be able to officially start at the beginning of the year rather than waiting until the semester and doing it at that time. And so that's why it's kind of relatively close again for your approval. But securing your approval tonight will allow us to start the program for the entire year.
It seemed to have worked real well.
It has gone extremely well. The students are benefiting tremendously from the flexibility that it presents them.
Yeah, there are some that need it, and it's very, very important that you give them that flexibility. Not only the educational aspect of it, but
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, do we have a recommendation?
It is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the TMISD OFSDP application for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
We have a motion. Ben makes that motion, have a second by Leo. That the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the TMISD OFSDP application for the 2024-2025 school year as presented. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to number 6 is update on TM board travel for the 24-25 school year. I want to hand this out to y'all. This is just letting you take a look at what was spent this year by the Board of Trustees for each one of us. And I wanted to make sure, it's basically just an update because what we're going to have to do is update policy. And so I've been in contact with TASB and trying to get them to help with getting a policy written so that we can put this in place. But I just wanted to hand this out to y'all so that you could take a look at what was actually spent this year. And after you take a look at it, you can see that what we discussed at the last meeting, moving down to 2 conferences a year, that we can definitely cut down on our budget and do our part in helping the district save money.
I have a question, Kim. How are we gonna keep up with our hours, our credits, if we are gonna not be attending these? Are they gonna be presented locally, or?
2 conferences, you should be able to get all of your continuing education hours within 2 conferences. And the 2 conferences will not include local education that we will be getting. So like our team building that we'll do, all of our requirements that we have to have that we do locally, that won't be a part of any of this. This is strictly for the conferences. Because that is lodging, food, travel, and hotels. So there's 4 offered a year, so we talked about it at the last meeting of cutting down to 2 a year per trustee. And there could be a time in the future, like we talked about with the budget, that we can go back to going to 4 conferences a year, but with everybody cutting their budgets, I think it would be great that we participate and do our part.
Do you have an idea how much that would save compared to what we've been doing?
Depending on how many
It depends on
trustees
how,
go.
correct.
But not only that, I mean, for my sake, I just want the community to know that the school pays my hotel and admission to the
conference.
The conference
Yeah.
registration. I've never, in the 4 years that I've been here, I've never asked for the food reimbursement nor the gas reimbursement.
And
Never done that.
this is all public record, so anybody can look
So-
at this information.
Yeah, well, just since we're bringing it up,
Yeah.
I'm just saying it out
Yeah.
loud. So, but I would, I think it's important for all trustees to go to the SLI training and the TASB governance camp. I think those 2 are really important.
Absolutely.
But I also want to go to the MASBA because it's the Mexican American Conference of School Board Trustees.
Right.
So I would request that I be able to attend those 3, since it's not all the trustees. Our budget schedule for 7 trustees to go to 7 convention, to all
4
4
each.
And we've never done that. The most that we went to was the one in Dallas. Well, no, there was only 3 of us there too. And the one that this past training was in San Antonio where 5 of us showed up. But never has there been 7 in the 4 years that I've been here. And here in the last 2 years, it's only been 2 or 3 that we go to the conferences. So we're not expunging all our budget for it. But I would like to go, on my part, I would like to go to the governance camp because I do like that one, and we do learn a lot, and the SLI. But I also want to attend MASBA because MASBA is really important that some of us attend that because of the different. There's just a whole different diverse conference there. So, and I think Paul, you would agree with it. You've gone to the MASBA, and it's totally different. But we've also. But I don't have a problem. Like I said, I've never asked for the food or the gas. I spend my own money on that and stuff.
I think most of the trustees do. If we can, we'll break it down for the next meeting for 3 conferences versus 2, and so that the board can take a look at what the difference of the savings will be for our budget.
Sure.
So that we get a full picture of everything. So that was basically just an update, and I wanted to give you all this so that you had this, so that you could look at it in your leisure time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so that was just for board discussion only. If there's no more questions, we'll move on to number 7, board debriefing and discussion on recent TASB Summer Leadership Institute. For the ones that attended, does someone want to start? I know the budget workshop on Thursday night? Wednesday night. You all know I get my days mixed up. It was very, very good and very eye-opening to seeing the schools across the state of Texas and the deficits that school districts are facing right now.
It's probably about 75% of the
It
people in
was.
the room, and there were several hundred in there. Several hundred.
Very eye-opening, very disappointing at the same time. So it kind of helped to see that we were not the only ones sitting in these seats. Many trustees in that room were frustrated with all the same things, and even the leadership people within the room are just as frustrated as the trustees are. So it was nice to see that we're not the only ones sitting in a deficit in the state of Texas right now. Public school districts are struggling.
Or at least not like Fort Worth or Austin. But the TASB people that presented it were they tried to make it look better, but there was just no way that they could do it.
You know all about that, don't you? Try to make it look better.
They tried to make everything sound better, but,
I applaud their attempted optimism.
yeah.
They tried hard.
That was attempted optimism for sure, but yes, that was something else. What else? Anybody?
There was a lot of good, our neighbors down the street, Robstown had some real good sessions. That guy's a real character, the superintendent there. And but what they are doing is their trustees are really involved as far as visiting the campuses and, being just in touch and helping out. It was just one after another, just keep saying the same thing. We attended this, we did this as a group. We were just here and we're there, and it's like, wow, man, that board is just busy. But it's all united in that, helping that district grow. And they had a couple of sessions that were back to back that were really interesting and stuff. So, you do learn as a trustee. You do learn a lot. A lot of people say, well, you're out there on vacation, and you're sitting in classes from 8 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning till 4:30, and it's like, if you're not used to that, like I'm not, it takes its toll, and you're glad to go up to that room early. So.
One of the things I thought was interesting that they had mentioned is that, our district has a lot of activities, and it's nice to have the Board of Trustees there or administration represented. And they kind of coordinate, because we can't be at everything. They coordinate, hey, maybe 3 of us should go here and 2 of us can go here. And that way, someone's there. I mean, most of the time, I don't know among us who's going to be someplace, and you go and maybe you're the only one there, or you're not there and everybody else was there. So it would kind of be nice to, have some kind of schedule amongst us that we can say, let's somebody represent us there, if not 1, 2, or perhaps 3. I know that number we can't be too high, but that would be a nice element. They try to implement there. We could probably take a page out of their book and do the same thing.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I know I went to one that talked about the board holding like an educational meeting for people that want to run for school board. And I would really like to see us implement that so that people that want to get involved with the district know what it is all about to be and what we actually do and our governance and all of that. I mean, I think it would be great if we implemented that. And I'm going to send an email to that school district to try to get them to send me some of their stuff so that hopefully we can get that going.
Kind of like board succession planning.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a board training academy. Several districts do it. I think Linder is one of them, Linder. And Canyon was doing it, but they stopped. And there was one other district I know, I went to several of them, and they actually have this academy that people that want to, they started a year or sometimes longer before any elections. And they train them about board functions and what the board's supposed to do. In other words, they give them an idea long before they get on the board, because a lot of board members get on the board, they've got this one idea, and they find out, wow, it's not anything like I thought it was going to be. It's a little different. But they train them over a period of time, and most of them had a 50+% success rate. In other words, those staying in said, okay, I'm going to do it, And they did do it.
I'm gonna go back and look and see we've brought this up before, that the board should also recruit people in the community to succeed them, to come to the meetings, come and see. And I mean, that conversation has been brought up a few times before, and it would be nice to, but I think us as sitting board members should go out and look for people. I know Mr. Landin was very good at doing that, because he would chase me down at HEB you need to be on the board, and so I think it is our job as sitting board members to recruit and try to get, especially their parents that have a vested interest in the community. We've all had it, some of us have, out of it now, but we should, be able to recruit and invite people to come and sit and see what we go through so that they can succeed us. And I also brought up at one of the conferences that I'd like to see term limits, but then that was explained to me that we as a board have nothing to do with that. It's, the state level.
That's right.
So I still would like to see board limits, but that would keep it fresh. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because years ago, we used to do that. We did that, and I don't know what happened somewhere along the line. It kind of stopped. I think people lost interest. But anyway.
Well, it's kind of funny. I had 2 students that graduated last year that said, how much do y'all get paid for being on the board? And I said, we're volunteers. And they said, you're volunteers? And I said, yes, we do it for y'all. And they were blown away. So there's a lot of misconceptions of what the Board of Trustees actually do. So I think it would be great
You know, I had a lady say, well, I know you run part of the school. I said, no, I don't. I'm far from it, but, you know, they don't have.
Just education sessions for the community. So if you would like to join in with me on that, please send me an email and we'll start kind of working together on different projects to pull all that together. So at least maybe for November, we can at least have one session, an education session.
I think it's
That'd be
really
quick,
important
'cause-
because, I'm sorry, Lou. I think a lot of people who want to be on the board and have no idea what it involves. It is a lot of work and it's a lot of information. And like I've said before, everybody that sits on the board has something to bring to the table. If you don't have anything to bring to the table, you don't understand it, you're not, it's gonna either push you way back to catch up to learning what it takes to sit here, or you're gonna find out that, man, I'm lost and I really don't belong here.
Well, and people need to understand, sorry, Paul, legislation is changing all the time. So we're having to learn new stuff all the time. The district is constantly having to, I mean, it's evolving all the time. It's just changing.
And
It doesn't stay the
legislation,
same.
They give us so much. So it's not just coming to a Monday board meeting and we're here. Gosh, there's so much legislation that keeps changing. You get tired of reading it because they add something and then they change it or they take it completely away. And so it affects how the school runs, so.
You have to prepare for a board meeting too. You don't just
Yes,
walk
absolutely.
in.
You don't just walk in, that's right.
What were you gonna say, Paul? I knew you were gonna say.
Well, I was just gonna say, years ago, there was a trustee from Kingsville, he and I used to put on, through TASB, a training session for prospective board members. We did that for several years, and then all of a sudden TASB says, no, we're gonna do it online. And I don't know, it kinda, you lost that personal touch with
Right.
someone to, give them that experience, but,
Well, we have
But-
great community members, great people in our
Yes.
community that would do a great job on the board.
Yes.
So they just need to know what it entails and whether or not they have the time to do it.
Getting back to what we were supposed to be talking about TASB, how many of us were there for the last general session?
The last one.
The which one?
The very, on Saturday morning?
That's when the guy that had the crutch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was extremely moving.
The story was,
Because
yeah.
he was a small kid and didn't have anything to do in school, and he got into wrestling. And when he went into college, and he had what? One of his legs was gone, right? Or deformed.
He was
or something.
born.
Yeah, and he ended up being a national champion in NCAA.
Yeah.
It was something else, and the story, oh, wow,
Yeah, talk about diversity and overcoming,
yeah,
which all our kids today are having to do
yeah,
that go to school here.
yeah,
So anyways, it was a great conference, is what it boils down to, right?
yes.
All right. If there's nothing else to talk about, we're going to, that was for just board discussion only. Discuss and consider approval of consent agenda informational items. Starting with number 1. Oh, before we can, sorry, I'm going to go back. Mr. Van Matry, did you want to say anything about the conference? You were there. Is he still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you. To be honest with you, Kim, I was trying to think back while listening to your assessments of the sessions, and I couldn't think of anything that hit me other than as a superintendent, I get a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction out of watching you all go to the sessions and interact with your fellow trustees, because as you know, being a trustee, I think, is the purest form of public service, and we don't thank you enough for that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Well, we'll move on now to discuss and consider approval consent agenda informational items. Number 1, check payment register. Does anybody have any questions on that? Number 2, June 2024 financials. Number 3, the budget amendment.
Working out okay. Philip?
The budget amendment? Yeah, we're doing, our freshman class needs more devices, so technology's moving their stuff around, so they had some leftover money, knowing that their budget's gonna get cut next year, but we're gonna go ahead and get them now. Rosie says she can get the stuff delivered before the end of the fiscal year, because it's really for the incoming freshmen, so they can have more devices for the freshmen, so that's why we're scraping up money here at the end to do it, knowing that we're making the expenditure now, and the budget's gonna get reduced next year.
Okay, thank you.
Number 4, tax collection report. I'm going too fast, or y'all okay? Everybody's okay? Number 5, regular and special call board meeting minutes.
But we don't have them yet.
Okay. So we need to remove that.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a recommendation?
It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented, excluding item number 5.
Do we have a motion? Leo makes that motion. Do we have a second? Janie? There's a motion made and a second for the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda item as presented, with removing number 5. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 5-0. The board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.071-.076.082, .0821, .083, .084. It is 7:08 p.m. and we will now go into closed session.
Madam President, can I get like 3 or 4 minutes? I gotta make the phone.
Absolutely. We'll take a recess for 5 minutes. It is 9:47 p.m. and we have come out of closed session, and we do have some action that needs to take place. The Board of Trustees have decided to table action regarding the superintendent's contract until we have all 7 trustees present. We felt that all 7 needed to be present here for that to take place. So we will table that for the next agenda for August, regular scheduled board meeting. And then we do have some action that needs to take place.
Okay. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees issue an administrative probationary contract for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion made by Paul and a second by Leo.
No, Leo made it, I seconded it.
Oh. I have a motion made by Leo and a second by Paul Mostella. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 5-0.
It is recommended that the Board of Trustees issue an educator probationary contract for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? I have a motion made by Ben and a second by Leo. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 5-0.
It is recommended that the Board of Trustees issue an educator probationary contract with a certification addendum for the 2024-2025 school year as presented to the attached list.
Do I have a motion? Ben, and a second. Leo, all those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 5-0.
And finally, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the resignations for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
I'll make that recommendation.
A motion?
Motion.
Paul makes the motion, a second by Ben. All those in favor? None opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next future meeting is August 19th, 2024 is the regular called board meeting, but there could be a budget workshop prior to that for a special called board meeting. So stay tuned, trustees. And if there is no further business, does someone want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I was like, what? I forgot.
I've got Ben.
I'm looking at you. I was like, come on, Ben, I was waiting for you.
And I have a second by Paul. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. It is 9:50 PM and this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much.